Welcome to the Even Better podcast, where your host, Sinikka Waugh of Your Clear Next Step, brings you exciting content about making communities better by helping people get even better at work.
Today's episode is brought to you by Your Clear Next Step in the Changemaker Certification Program.
Would you like to save time by solving the right problem sooner with a realistic and measurable plan? Reduce overwhelm by finding more sustainably productive ways to work? Improve employee morale by creating more positive workdays from within? Stay competitive by tightening your turn or increasing your agility in adapting to changing customer demands? If you said yes to those things, then we have the solution for you.
Interested in becoming a changemaker? Give us a call at 515-442-0545.
Hello, friends. This is Sinikka Waugh with the Even Better podcast. I am so delighted to have you join me this day. You know, as we're talking about change, it's one of those topics that some folks would just prefer not to talk about at all. It's a word that creates a physical, visceral response in many of us. And I know there are some people that you hear the word change and you think, whee, yay, I can hardly wait. And some people will, put on their capes and their masks and start running and jumping towards whatever change is in front of us. And some are so excited about it that they'll just grab onto whatever new change is happening. Change, I love this stuff. And some folks will be like, yeah, change, I'm in, count me in. I'm up for it. I like to vary my routine. I like to shake things up from time to time. And other folks are a little bit more hesitant, right? A little bit more skeptical to this change. I'm all right with change. I'm up for it as long as it makes sense, as long as there's a good reason, as long as I understand why, and as long as they're not just changing for the sake of change. And then there are others who will look at change and say, right now I'm not interested in change. I don't have much of an appetite for change right now. I'd like things to stay fairly constant because change creates disruption, and I really prefer things to work the way I'm familiar with. And I like things to be predictable and constant and regular and to move the way I am used to them moving. And then there's a group that will just dig in their heels and say, no, 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 no. I hate the disruption. I hate the hassle. I hate the discomfort and the irritation and the frustration that it causes when no one knows what's going on and we got to figure all this stuff out, and there's that uncertain zone in the middle. I love these uncertain times we're living in, said nobody ever. And there's a group in particular that will look at the uncertainty that comes with change and go, no, thank you. I am not keen on that this day. So what I want to pause and stop on for just a moment is to honor this and to recognize that these different appetites for change are in fact just that. They're appetites. They're not reasons to judge one another. They're not reasons to throw each other out with the garbage. They're not reasons to like one another or put someone in my camp or your camp or us or them. Man, we've got too many reasons to do that. Too many artificial, contrived, ridiculous reasons to separate one another. Knock it off. Let's embrace one another. Let's acknowledge that there are reasons for which someone might say, on this front, on this day, I'm open to change all you want. And on this day, on this front, no, thank you. Stick with what we know. There are reasons that I might be hungrier. I love this idea of change appetite. And that's what I want to offer us today, change appetite. Because you see, my friends, our appetite for change is as variable as our appetite for pizza. Wait, Sinikka. Wait. I like pizza, you may say. Sure, I'll give you that. Maybe you're always hungry for pizza. Maybe you are a Joey Tribbiani out there and you're always hungry for pizza. I'll give you that. And I would say your hunger for pizza and at the beginning of slice 1 is still likely higher than your appetite for pizza just before slice 21. Let that sink in for just a second. Your own appetite for change is variable. It changes, it shifts. Now, I grew up in the Navy. My dad was in the Navy, and mom traveled us around. I had an older brother and an older sister, and mom would pack us up, and she had this amazing ability to pack up everything and just move us along when dad got his orders, and off we would go. And we moved around the world, and everything changes and changed, and things were pretty disrupted on a very regular basis. About every 9 to 18 months or so, we would pack up and move things along. And I believed for most of my life that I had a fairly high change appetite. And I suppose I still do. I didn't mind being the new kid at school. I didn't mind shaking things up. And when my husband and I were first married, in our first 5 years of marriage, we had 7 different addresses until he said, Sinikka, seriously, can you stop already? I liked to shake things up. I like trying new things, and I have a fairly high change appetite. Until August of 2021. And in August of 2021, in a 10-day window, we moved my immediate family, my husband and my 2 kids. We moved my family out of the only home my kids had ever known. We moved my business out of the lower level of my home where we had operated for the last 14 years. We moved my older daughter, the 18-year-old, off to college, and the 16-year-old got a driver's license. And all of these changes, those are some pretty big changes. All of these happened within a 10-day window. My friends, I was no longer hungry. My change appetite shut down completely. I was not interested in any more change of any kind. And so on day 11, when Apple sent me the oh so helpful notification on my phone that I needed a new iOS, I said, no, thank you. I don't need a new iOS. I do not need an upgrade. I do not need to move the icons on my screen. I do not need that kind of daily disruption. Right now, leave the icons where they are, keep everything the color that it's supposed to be. I can't handle that kind of change right now. I'm not hungry for it. I've had enough. Thank you. No more. And I don't believe that that level of change appetite, that change in my appetite, if you will, that shift in my hunger level for change makes me a better or a lesser human. I don't think it has anything to do with my value, my ability to contribute as a worthy member of society. I just wasn't hungry for change anymore. This was August of 2021, moving into September of 2021. I will tell you that it was mid-October of 2021 before I finally said yes to the upgrade on my phone. I did get the new phone upgrade. Eventually, they're not going to let you not, right? So I got the new update on my iOS. And I will tell you that in January of 2022, our business launched a change that initiated a 50%, that's 50, a 50% growth goal. Now that's increasing my appetite again, right? That's a hunger that increases our appetite. My hunger was back. I was increased in hunger again for more change. A 50% growth goal, that's some cage rattling change. Again, I don't think that hunger level rising again makes me a better or a lesser human than I was in October, or a better or lesser human than I was in August, which was a better or a lesser human than I was before any of that. I don't believe that our change appetite changes our value as humans. But too often, when we go into these moments of change where change is required of one another, we look at someone and we start to judge them. How easy is it for us to judge one another, my friends? We judge someone because their level of change appetite doesn't match ours. They're not an us, they must be a them. Can we just knock that off? Wouldn't it be easier if instead of judging them, we figured out where they were and figured out what the situation required and then offered our help, or offered our learning, or offered our curiosity, or offered something other than judgment? Maybe they're not hungry because there's a darn good reason not to change right now. Maybe they're super hungry because there's a compelling reason to change right now. Maybe curiosity is the best approach to this situation, not judgment. Can we tap into curiosity? Maybe in the situation that they're in, they are not hungry because they are overwhelmed or overloaded with something, and we have space in our world that we could help them. Maybe our ability to help and offer compassion or empathy would be just what the situation calls for instead of judgment. So, this is what I offer. Many times we don't want to talk about change because judgment, judgy McJudge pants, comes out when we start talking about change. Let's stop that. Let's start with curiosity. Let's start with empathy. Let's start with consideration. Let's start with figuring out what the situation calls for. So that's something that I offer you right now in this moment as we're talking about change. A quick nugget. First off, strike from your vocabulary. Immediate tactical things you can do. First one I'm going to invite you to do is strike from your vocabulary any words you might be using around change resistance, change tolerance. Strike them from your vocabulary. Just stop using them. Stop using, oh, that person's not very tolerant to change, or that person's kind of change resistant. Ooh, that person resisted that change. Or, oh, that person's super change tolerant. Stop it. Just strike it. Now, switch instead to words like hunger. How hungry are they? How big is their change appetite? Use these words like appetite and hunger because you'll find that they're less judgmental, they're less judgy, they're less controversial. They allow us that flexibility. And instead of putting someone in a box and forcing them to stay there, instead they allow us the ability to step in and out of that moment. Today, I'm not very hungry, but tomorrow I might be. Maybe this morning I'm not hungry, but by afternoon I will be. They allow us the flexibility to move, to grow, to adjust, to protect ourselves as the moment allows or as the moment calls for. They allow so much more flexibility. That's the first offer I'm going to offer you right now, is to just stop and think about how you're talking about it, how you're thinking about it. Try change appetite. Thanks for taking a moment to listen. That's our first tip on change management. Try change appetite instead of change resistance. Thanks so much for listening. I hope on behalf of all of us here at Your Clear Next Step, the rest of your day is even better.
Thank you for tuning in today. The Even Better podcast will be back with more content soon. But in the meantime, subscribe to our podcast or check out our website at yourclearnextstep.com for more information. See you next episode.